Anoushka Shankar, welcome to CNN News 18.
Thank you so much.
Anoushka, you have a new album out called Chapter 1 Forever, for which you have collaborated with Arooj Aftab. It's not your first collaboration with Arooj. Please tell us more about this album. I really like the song Daydreaming.
Thank you. It's called Chapter 1 Forever for now. And it's the first in a series of mini albums I'm releasing over the course of 1 year, which is just a new approach I'm trying to see what it feels like to release smaller collections frequently while I'm on tour and connecting with people that way. And as you say, this first chapter was produced by my dear friend, the incredible musician Arooj Aftab, and also features one of my favorite musicians, one of my greatest inspirations, Niels Fromm, on the song Daydreaming, and he also plays other instruments on some of the other tracks as well. So both of them create music that I find very, very intimate, very, very expansive. Somehow that duality exists within both of their musics. And I really wanted to make music that had that feel as well. So that's why I reached out to both of them. And it felt really key to work together to create this really special sound and a different sound world on this mini album that's very much about atmosphere and moment and emotion. And I feel really proud of what we did.
How many tracks are there in this album?
There are 4 tracks on this album. So there's Daydreaming featuring Niels Fromm, Stolen Moments, What Will We Remember, and finally Sleeping Flowers, Awaken Every Spring. And that leads into Chapter 2, which will come out in a few months, and then Chapter 3 after that.
This is a trilogy.
Yes.
You're in India right now, and you'll be performing at Lollapalooza, which will be held in January. Please tell us more about it. Which is the song that you'll be performing?
Well, I'm really excited to be playing at Lollapalooza this year in January. It's only the second Lollapalooza, I believe, and I love playing at festivals. I think it really changes the atmosphere of the audience to be able to be outside and be casual and be moving, and I love that energy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and that's part of an overall tour I'll be doing with my quintet, promoting Chapter 1 Forever for now and playing music as well.
Now, you are a regular at the Recording Academy. You've been nominated number of times at the Grammys. Do you think the authenticity of your music is something that always appeals to the world audience?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I've been lucky to be nominated I think 9 times at the Grammys, which is crazy. And it's always an honor. And I think, I don't know, I can't speak for other people, but for me that authenticity is very important when I make music. I have to make music that feels honest to who I am, to my experience of the world, as most artists do, I'm sure. And maybe that's what people respond to.
Now, you have a series of concerts planned in India. It's called Anoushka Shankar Live in India.
Very originally titled, yeah.
Do you think Indian audiences, especially the young people, shower love on you each time when you perform here in India?
I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to play live since I was 13 years old. So I've played for a diverse age group of people. It's not young versus old. I mean, I love having a diverse range of types of people, cultures, genders, ages. And I've been very blessed to be able to do that.
So which songs you'll be performing this time on stage and while you're in?
I mean, as I said, I'm in the touring circuit for Chapter 1 Forever for now, so I'll definitely be performing some versions of those songs, but also maybe some other unreleased things from previous albums. But whenever I play live, it feels really important to me to change the music, so we're not just exactly replicating what was on the record. I like to really make it special to that band and to that tour as well.
I saw a clip of yours on internet. I think that was from one of your concerts that you did in Paris, and such a calm audience that was. Do you see a different pattern or the audience behavior each time when you perform across the world? And how different other audiences? Indian audiences are different from, say, if somebody...
It fascinates me how often I get asked that question. It's not an answerable question because we can't generalize country to country. City to city, venue to venue, there's too many differences. So I can play in London at Royal Albert Hall or at Hyde Park or at Barbican or at a club, and you're going to get a completely different audience. So ultimately it's the atmosphere and the venue that changes how an audience behaves. If they're at a festival, you play the same music and they'll be up and dancing. You're in a concert hall, they'll be sitting and listening. And it doesn't matter which country it is. That's, I think, really what changes it.
I have another question for the concerts. But your father, legendary Pandit Ravi Shankar, had said in one of his interviews that Anoushka is just like me. She said people do come to me and tell him that when he was alive, that how they see certain characteristics of him in you. How do you see taking your father's legacy forward?
I don't think I'm exactly like him. I also see a lot of differences, and I think when I was younger, I was obviously learning from him. So I think I was like an empty vessel, where all of his teaching was coming to me and I was replicating it. And over the years and years of performing, I think my own identity, my own personality, my own voice has come into the music more and more. And so I feel like he is a huge central influence in who I am and the music I make, but not to the same extent that he may have seen 20 years ago.
I saw some of the clips that you posted on your Instagram, and one of the clip a very young Anoushka is cueing other people who have come, and
that was a recording session I was conducting.
Yeah, and you said how you love used to say cut to those who have come. Yeah. So then, which are the songs of your father or the ragas you think that had a big impact on you while growing up?
Right, well, some connection. I think it's impossible to say. I mean, I learned from him for my whole life, so everything, it's all in there. It's all in me. Yeah.
Like I said, you're sort of a regular at the Recording Academy. You're a much revered name in the world of music. Recording Academy recently announced 3 new categories, which are African Music Performance, Best Alternate Jazz, and Best Pop Dance category. Do you think there should be a category also dedicated to Indian music, Indian classical music?
I mean, all of this is ultimately meaningless. I think the whole thing is a farce, all these genres and the way they're divided. So, sure, I think that would help. But, I've been going to the Grammys for 20-something years now, and I remember when I first got my nomination, there was just world music, and then it became world music traditional and world music contemporary. And I thought that was a really interesting division. They didn't get enough submissions, so they made it back to world music. Then that became global music. And just a few years ago, they made it global music and global music perform. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's good. They're trying to make categories that accurately define what's happening in music. But I had a meeting with the CEO, Harvey Mason Jr., a couple of years ago, and they said it always depends on the number of submissions. So if they don't get enough submissions, they can't make the categories because it's not fair compared to the others. So I think what's important is that people from here, people who are making music here, submit their music.
More music need to come out.
The more music that's submitted there, the more they will see the representation is needed, and that they will make those categories. So people are lobbying for that, and that's.
You are a quite inspirational figure. Do you see a lot of young musicians coming to you and asking you for help and for guidance, for tips?
To an extent. I mean, I talk to people whenever I can. Yeah.
The advantage of being an artist is that it gives you many opportunities to express your thoughts, and often you can make a difference. You actually gave a tribute to Nirbhaya in one of your songs. The song was called Inner Name. Do you see it as like a duty of yours to reflect what is going on in society and to reflect that in your music?
Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know if it's a duty, but it definitely feels like something essential for me, whether that's a duty or not. But I do just feel pulled when I feel pain, in response to something that's happening in the world. It feels like that ends up in my music somehow. And I think what's really interesting about art and music is that it helps people connect to an issue from an emotional space, from an empathetic space. And so it has a really valuable role, because sometimes two people might end up across a divide, and they're arguing because they have different political viewpoints or and you just end up fighting, you just end up at war, Yeah. Whereas when you come from an empathetic place, when you're talking human to human and you're just connecting in that way, usually you can transcend the differences and you can agree on some basics. Yeah. I wish that would happen more often, but I think that's where art can really come in, is because people have to respond differently when they respond to art.
You collaborate a lot with many renowned singers or musicians. How often has that happened? Or where you, while performing on stage, have you ever got into or competed with another musician while on stage? Like, sometimes a duet.
That's a great question. I was talking about this with someone today, actually. That's like a hard no for me. I don't work with people like that. So I've been very fortunate through my career. You know, I've been able to make a lot of choices. Sometimes people can't make those choices, but usually I build my bands, or I'm choosing who I work with, and that's a hard no for me. You know, I've got to work with people where when we're coming together, there's no ego, and you're there to make music together. It's not about, oh, my solo, no, mine is biggie, mine has to be longer. You know, if you think like that, you're not thinking about the music anymore, and for me that doesn't work.
But is there a famous concert story where a duet between two singers become a duel?
I see it all the time. I mean, some healthy competition, well, not competition, but that back and forth is very exciting for an audience. If you're doing that together to rile up the audience and make it exciting, that's fine. But when you actually see it flip into two people competing on stage, it's not my jam. No.
Sure. When you perform or collaborate with Zakir Hussain, how's the energy on the stage like when you're performing with another legend like Zakir Hussain?
So I was very blessed. I got to work with him when I was, my very first concert. So when I was 13, when I was 14 to 16. So I think for me, to work with legends like that early in my career, the learning experience is so huge. Just like working with my father, but getting to perform with other people, to see how they work on stage, how they perform, what they do, and really learn that next to them is huge. I can't minimize how big that is.
Let's talk about your film music. You of course have composed for a silent film called Shiraz, A Romance of India, and also for Meera Nair's A Suitable Boy. Composing for a silent film must have come with its own challenges.
Yeah, it was one of the most ambitious projects I've ever done, because it was a nearly 2-hour movie with no dialogue whatsoever. And so I was quite naive when I took on the project. I'd never done something like that before. And only once I started, I realized it was like doing 3 albums at once. It was just so much material to write. And I loved it, though. It was hugely fulfilling.
Which scene was the one you had most fun with?
I mean, a lot of it, because actually that film is extraordinary. I'd never seen films from, it's made in 1927 in India. It's one of the first 3 films ever made. So it's a piece of our cinematic history. And to see that, and to see what they did, these battle scenes with 10,000 extras, these incredible costumes, I just thought it was unbelievable. And it was an honor to, be a part of restoring that film.
Sure. And finally, do you think classical music needs a rebranding? There's an umbrella term today used to define classical music. How do you see the future ahead?
I don't know why people are so worried all the time. Like, I've been playing music for 25 years, and I was asked this question 25 years ago. Yeah. So that means one whole generation has passed, and people are still asking the same question. Classical music has not disappeared. It's a whole new generation of young people. The people who were young before everyone was worried about have grown up. No one's worried about them anymore. They're listening to whatever they're listening to. So I think we all need to relax. Classical music is strong. It is beautiful. It has lasted for centuries. It will continue to last, but it will evolve and it will change. All things do, and I think that makes people nervous sometimes. And I think everyone just needs to relax a little bit.
So then let me end with a positive question. Do you remember when was the first time you heard your name in public as like composed by Anoushka Shankar?
I remember when I released my book when I was 20. I'd written a biography on my father. And when I went to the book release, I was expecting some small thing. And there were like hundreds and hundreds of people in the room. And I naively just hadn't really thought about that. And when I walked in and saw that many people, I thought, wow, that many people are here for my first book. And that must be because of, obviously the family connection, but also because I'd already been playing music. So that, I think, was the first moment where I was like, oh, maybe, maybe something is happening.
And heard your song in the public for the first time?
Catching it in the radio, or being like, it happens a lot that I might be around the world in a yoga class or something, and I'll hear my music or hear it in a restaurant. That feels exciting. It feels lovely. Yeah.
Well, on that happy note, many thanks for your time. We're looking forward to see you a lot in India now. I hope you do many concerts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.